Well, the ANC in Limpopo says it's carrying out its own forensic investigations into the looting of VBS Mutual Bank. It says the findings of the probe will determine what action to take against those implicated. Senior Limpopo officials are implicated in the looting of the collapsed bank. The province's provincial treasurer, Danny Msisa, is said to be the kingpin.
That the provincial government has noted the report. It's a very serious thing. It's a serious problem that we need to deal with. But our forensic investigations is underway. In a month or few days' time, we should be done with the investigations. Once we get the findings and the recommendations, we're going to implement each and every recommendation just to make sure that we bridge the trust deficit between ourselves as government and the people that we are serving. We need our people to have confidence in us that their money is safe with us. So we're not going to sugarcoat anything. This Reserve Bank report will be used as a point of reference.
Well, the ANC has reiterated that any of its members found to have been involved in corrupt activities will be dealt with.
Actions speak louder than words. And corruption, is a cancerous thing that eats in the moral fiber of society. It's better done than said. So in this particular instance, you are confronted with this. You've got Integrity Commission. How you act as a party going forward is what will win the trust of the people in you. So we're confronted with this. It is said our members are involved. We need to correct. We need to follow the proper steps. And at the same time, to the latter, and ensure that we act decisively at the end. And like we say, the heads must roll if needs be.
Well, now the Hawks and the NPA are working together to investigate this bank fraud. For some background on the story, we're joined in studio by eNCA reporters Erin and Michael Appel, and they've been working tirelessly on the story. So from months ago, welcome, Erin, Michael. Thanks for joining us. And sort of, I think, for those who are wondering, how did this all happen? Where did this all come out? We're going to delve into that as well. But very quickly this morning, Erin, where are we in those investigations? As we wake up this morning, what's happening around the saga in terms of investigations?
Well, what I've been looking at is what's happening in terms of criminal prosecution here. Where are things at in terms of the Hawks work and that of the NPA? And what we understand is from the NPA that they were approached by the Hawks. There have been engagements over around the last 2 weeks. There have been 2 meetings last week. They have a team of 5 senior experienced investigators, they say, on the matter, and the Hawks say they have 6 dockets open, and the spokesperson for the Hawks has given us some more information on the work they're doing around criminal prosecution. This is what the Brigadier had to say.
We have our own independent investigation. Advocate Mtau was commissioned by the South African Reserve Bank. Hence, we're saying that this document will only assist us in terms of guidance. We cannot take a document to us and just take it straight to court. We would be a laughingstock of the country. What we are doing, we have our own investigations that we are busy with. Unfortunately, you would know there are laws in this country that does not compel me to give details. But the country can take into confidence of the fact that the team that has been formulated, they are trying to make sure that this matter is dealt with as soon as possible. The team, not the team effect, we are dealing with people here that were defrauded. We have got people who have lost a lot of money. So it is incumbent upon the law enforcement agency to make sure that this matter is dealt with as speedily as possible. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're fair in terms of the investigation, but also making sure that all the aspects that affect this case are covered.
Well, Erin and Michael, I'd like to hear from both of you, seeing as you've both worked on the story. I mean, we have the Limpopo ANC saying we're going to conduct our own investigation, and you have to wonder, really, what answers is that going to give us? Because you have your own members, senior members implicated in this. When this came out months ago, surely you should have also delved into that. what's the point of having an ANC Limpopo investigation?
Very fair question, Uveka, especially because from the report, and I must say this is the tip of the iceberg. You know, if you look at the report, it says that there is a trove of other documentation, cell phone records, transcripts of interviews and the like, which forms the appendices to this report. We as the press don't have formal access to any of those documents at the moment, but all of the information seems to suggest it was an open secret that if you worked in municipalities in Limpopo, you were either able directly or through a middleman, middlewoman, to get commissions, basically bribes, to get municipal money into VBS bank accounts. And so it seems very unlikely that even junior members of the ANC who were sitting in municipal offices didn't know that this whole racket was going on. That's my sense.
Yeah, and Michael, I mean, you also, I'd like your thoughts also, seeing as you did delve into municipalities' involvement as well months ago.
Look, firstly, the Limpopo decision to forensically investigate is a complete duplication of the process. It's a complete parallel process. It makes you look like you're doing something and you're keeping very busy without, and it's just a complete waste of time. You have a blueprint for all the criminality that is contained in 148 pages here. So the next logical step is to suspend pending criminal investigations, which will then decide on guilt or lack thereof. So for them, but we have seen this before, a commission of inquiry that is announced to look into allegations or something instead of just letting law enforcement do their jobs, and then you have an outcome. So it's a very frustrating process, to be honest.
I would imagine, and then you'd have to wonder, is anybody going to try and cover up for anybody else in that investigation? And
also move their assets. I mean, speaking to the NPA yesterday, they said they have 6 people who are experts in the asset forfeiture unit, moving swiftly now to try and ensure as many assets as possible are seized, because people are likely to start moving them. Now, there are some senior executives from VBS Bank who've already had their assets seized, including the kingpin on the VBS side. We've heard about Msiza, who's the kingpin on the ANC side, but the head of the operations from the VBS side provisionally had all of his assets sequestrated in the middle of the year. And so there has already been some civil case prosecution on this whole issue. And I asked the NPA and said, are you going to use those sequestration cases from the middle of the year, which are basically cases just to ensure assets can be temporarily frozen? Are you going to use that information, which suggests high-scale, serious fraud, in your criminal investigations? And the answer I got puzzlingly was no.
I can just imagine that's frustrating. Well, Michael, you were looking at this way back in July, looking at municipalities' involvements. Take us back there to what we found out at that time.
Let's not forget, three quarters of the money that has been stolen is money from you and I and everybody else. It's taxpayer money from municipalities. So at least 1.6, 1.5 billion rand. And so I asked the president of the South African Local Government Association, known in Johannesburg as the former mayor, Parks Tau, I asked him what his take was on this startling revelation that our money was being deposited illegally.
We should be very angry. All of us in South Africa, all of society should be angry when money is siphoned out of the system into people's pockets, which money should have been there to serve the people of this country.
So I then travelled to the Northwest Province, where the Standing Committee on Public Accounts had hauled before them 4 municipalities who had illegally deposited over 300 million rand. These are the most distressed, financially distressed municipalities there, where they can put water on for 2 days a week. And conditional grants were paid over as deposits into VBS. This is what Madora Sambata, who's a member of SCOPA, had to say about the consequences that should follow for some of the people implicated.
Yeah, it's a crime. In actual fact, we should be asking our legal division to help us open criminal charges on the CFO and the municipal manager.
And you have to wonder, I mean, all of this outrage, all this outcry, we're talking months ago. What was done since then? What happened?
Well, all I know is that according to the Hawks, there are 6 dockets open. For which municipalities at this point we don't know. But as I said earlier, it was an open secret that there was a very delicious gravy train that everybody in municipal kind of decision making could get onto. And Mike, talking about those municipalities, I mean, if you look into the report, here's a sense of the figures involved here. We're talking hundreds of millions of rand. In April of this year, and this was all put under curatorship in April, the VBS Bank. Here are just some of the municipalities. Fetakgomo Greater Tubatse Municipality, 245 million rand sitting with VBS, unlawfully because it was a mutual bank, and according to the law they shouldn't have. Greater Guyana, 160 odd million. Lepele and Kumpi Municipality, 104 million. Those are the top 3, and it goes on. I mean, the list includes, you know, easily about 10, 15 different municipalities.
So where does the PIC come into this? I mean, we were looking at the defrauding of the PIC. I'm seeing, you know, articles this morning, Michael. What do we know of what the link was there and how it happened?
If you look at the business model of this Ponzi scheme, it was you taking individual retailers' money, then that was not enough. So they brought in the aspect of approaching municipalities to get their deposits. And that was a fantastic business model until they were taking out more than was coming in. Then they realized, well, what's the next biggest slice of the pie? SOEs. We need to get our hands on that. That is why there is an approach to PRASA, the Passenger Rail Agency, and then to the Public Investment Corporation. And can you imagine? It's amounts of 1 and 2 billion rand. Can you imagine how much more would have been stolen if they'd gotten their hands on SOEs? And
I can't let you go without asking you about the Shivambus. We're nearly out of time, but everybody will want to know what's happening with the Shivambus in this.
Well, Brian Shivambu yesterday releasing 2 statements, in fact. One in which he spoke about helping his brother but didn't give details, and then an amended version of that same statement later. He says he's considering legal action against the owner of this report now, which is the Reserve Bank. He's spoken about the grief it's caused his family, but also importantly, he states there that his business got money from Vele Investments, which is the hook in all of this. So VBS Bank was being defrauded by Vele Investments, which was set up by the head of VBS Bank and was siphoning out money. And Brian Shivambu says that his company was paid by Vele Investments, but he claims it was for services rendered, and so therefore there's no fraud. That's what he says, and his brother has retweeted that statement.
Well, 16 million earned in 1 year.
In 1 year. Must have been quite a service. Okay, well, I wish we had more time, guys, to continue talking, but I suppose you'll be chatting throughout the day and looking into it. I'll let you get back to it. Thanks very much, Erin Bates, Michael Appel, just giving us just some background and, of course, the latest on what's happening in the VBS Mutual Bank looting. Well, let's